All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. So we'll be starting in a few minutes. And in the meantime, please feel free to grab a drink or some snacks while we are waiting for the bulk of the audience to join in. Thank you. All right. Once again, thank you so much for joining our webinar today. So we will be starting in a few minutes. And in the meantime, feel free to grab a drink or some snacks while we are waiting for the bulk of the audience to join in. Thank you. All right, all right. So once again, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are doing well. The weather is nice here today, and I hope it's nice where you are as well. So just wanted to check in. I do see that we have some of the audience joining in already. So I just wanted to check where you guys are coming from. So I'm connecting from the Philippines, and I would love to see where you guys are coming from as well. Yeah, there we go. I do see someone coming in from the Philippines. Hello, welcome, kababayan. And then a few people coming in from Singapore as well. And oh, Indonesia. Hello, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. And yes, all right. So once again, hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, where our goal in our webinars, especially in this session, is to introduce you to people and ideas that can help you understand more how you can be a part of the solution to address the challenges of having inaccurate data. So I'm Joel from E27, and this is the future of hyperlocal. Before this webinar, I actually came across this quote that says, "The man who loves walking will walk further than the man who loves the destination." And it got me thinking, like, how are we supposed to walk to our destination if we are unsure if we are going to the right place? You know, yeah, but kidding aside, together with our friends at UNL, we have invited some of the most amazing thought leaders to share their insights on the role that accurate data and mapping play in your business operation. So this is just one of the many things that we'll be touching on for today, but I will save the details of this discussion to our panelists later on. Now, before we start, just like any other webinars, I would like to go over a few house rules. So the first one is, do note that this is a panel discussion, and we would like to invite you to join by sharing your thoughts and comments on the topic in the chat widget below. Second, the floor is always open to your questions, so do share your questions in the Q&A widget below as well, and we will get back to it so the panelists can address them at the end of the discussion. And lastly, with the first two house rules in mind, please know that this webinar is recorded and will be shared with all of you via email so you can view it after. All right. So before we dive into it, we would like to get to know you more. So we will be launching a poll on your screen to get a sense of where you're coming from, and we would like to invite everyone to share your thoughts with us. So the first question is, do you think having inaccurate addresses affects you and the businesses around you? Personally, I think it does. I've heard a lot of stories from businesses and from friends, from families on how it affects, their business. And, probably if you have more time after, I can share some of my stories. And then the second question is, have you encountered the term hyperlocal before? Yeah, so I think this is a really interesting term that we don't use like on a normal basis, on a daily basis, but I think this is interesting, that we'll be touching more on this. So I do see that people, yeah, definitely agree. People agree that, having inaccurate addresses affects them and the business around them. And then a lot of people have actually encountered the term hyperlocal as well. So we'll be opening the poll for a few more seconds. And I see more people coming in. Some of them haven't heard the term hyperlocal yet, but wanted to learn more. So you guys are in the right place. And closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Okay, there we go. So I would like to share the results with you so you get a sense as well on where the other attendees are coming from. So definitely, yeah, people agree that having inaccurate addresses affects you and the businesses around you. And it seems like the bulk of our audience also today have heard of the term hyperlocal. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all this. And yeah, so with that, all of that out of the way, now I would like to turn over the floor to our moderator, Alan. So Alan is formerly the CFO of Slack and is now focused on advising companies in angel investing in startups in Singapore and Southeast Asia. And I did see one person say that, any organization would be lucky to have Alan on their team. And that goes to show that we are lucky to have him as well. So please, everyone, help me in welcoming our moderator for today, the person who is excited to support the vision of building the Internet of Places, Mr. Alan Shim. Hi, Alan.
Hi. Thanks for this time, and I'm happy to be here. So I'll be taking over from here. Thank you, Joel. We've got a great set of panelists. As Joel mentioned, I'm now here located in Singapore. I'm pretty new to the region, here for about just over a year now. And in my experience, the term hyperlocal and the issues and the considerations around being hyperlocal have become more relevant and more apparent in my time here in Singapore. I mean, I think all of us living in COVID have seen the impact on logistics, in food delivery, in a number of different industries. And I'm really excited to have a pretty broad spectrum of panelists across a number of different industries speak to how their industries, their businesses are working either indirectly on these problems or in the situations and the opportunities around these things. So looking forward to this discussion. Without further ado, I'm going to go have our panelists introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with Paula from VersaFleet. If you can introduce yourself and your company, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paula from VersaFleet. So VersaFleet is a transport management software. So we work with companies who essentially have their own last mile delivery that needs to be done. And we provide them with the software that enables them to work with either their own fleet or outsourced transporters to make sure that delivery gets done. So we work with companies like FairPrice Online for the home delivery. We also work with companies like Watsons for retail restocking and stuff like that. So nice to be here. Very excited for this discussion. It's a very important topic for everyone who is attempting to do delivery. This is something that we definitely can't run away from.
Thank you, Paula. And next we have Kota from TerraDrone.
Yeah, hi everyone, nice to see you. This is Kota from the TerraDrone. So TerraDrone is actually we are the global drone service operator. So we are providing like drone inspections and then also drone run survey work. And then also like kind of drone delivery and then also infrastructure of the drone road. In the future, a lot of drone will be in the sky. So for that, we need some roads. So we are providing this type of system in the globally. So actually our sector is a bit different from the hyperlocal, but also we want to have the study from the this webinar. And also we want to get some lot of idea from the audience as well. So yeah, I hope it's to be a good webinar.
Thank you, Kota. And we also have Nishu from UNL. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Nishu and I'm the Chief Product Officer at UNL. So UNL started with a vision of building the Internet of Places, and we started it by doing or pixelizing the world into smart 3D grids. And that created a foundation for building our new generation of map technology platform. And I'm currently driving that platform, the vision and strategy of building this platform. And as part of our platform offerings, we are trying to build solutions that are hyperlocal and hypercontextual in nature. So this topic is very core to my heart, and I'm looking forward to the conversations today. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. And as you can see, we have a pretty broad spectrum of perspectives, experiences, business models around this. So maybe to kick off the discussion, I wanted to focus on the opportunities that you were seeing with these changes, either to your business or to your industry, to what your customers are saying, related to hyperlocal and similar kind of considerations. So maybe starting with Paula, maybe can you give us your thoughts on the opportunities you're seeing from this shift into being more focused around hyperlocal conditions?
So I would say that there's actually a lot of opportunities in the market with regards to hyperlocal. Where that sits in the context of my industry, right? It's a lot of brands for manufacturers, distributors, right? They all startups even. they start off with doing their deliveries and trying to distribute in a city, which is in an urban area, right? So you would see a lot of deliveries focused around Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Johor Bahru if you're in Malaysia, or it could be in Jakarta, right? So it's very focused towards the city. But as business expands, and this would be the case for any country, right? Even in India, hyperlocal is a big thing there. What about the people who are in the rural areas? They're not directly in the city. It's harder to get to them. It's harder to deliver to them. But they are the ones who would benefit most from convenience, having things delivered to the door, because they wouldn't make as frequent trips to the city, right? So there's actually a lot of opportunities there for brands to actually exploit that. Okay, probably exploit is not the right word, but there's a lot of opportunity there to take advantage of to grow the business. And a lot of delivery companies, I would say, are also trying to take advantage of this, because there is no one company that specializes in every single rural area, and they're trying to specialize in certain enclaves and trying to partner up with these brands as well. So there's actually a lot of opportunity in both sides of the story for companies to make use of this, essentially grow the business through deliveries in rural areas. And I think for vendors like UNL and myself, mapping technology becomes a very important thing to help make this possible. So opportunities all around.
Excellent. And I'm going to go to you, Kota. I know hyperlocal for you is not necessarily the terminology you like to use, but when you think about these issues around location and now things are getting much more precise in terms of where you need to go. How does that? Where do you see the opportunities in that for the business? I mean, obviously, drones is a whole other perspective. It would be great to kind of get your take on how this is impacting you.
Yeah, so from my point of view, actually, I'm Japanese. So then actually other Asian countries, actually population is growing every year, I think. But in Japan, actually population is actually downgrade. So every year population is getting down. So this means a lot of area is now it becomes difficult to access because of the infrastructures and so on. So that's why maybe in the future, a lot of Asian countries also having this similar problem if the economics more growth. So for that case, then right now, because in China or India has many people, so that's why it's easy to people can buy delivery by the people and so on. But in the future, it will be difficult, similar to Japanese situation. So that's why we need to have some robotics technology, like the automatic car, or also drone delivery can be one of the options to especially for the rural area, which infrastructure will be not available in the future. So for that also we need really accurate mapping for actually automatic flight and even the automatic car. So that's why also this type of accurate map business is really important. And also the robotics in the future will be very, very important. And this will be the actually big opportunity in the future.
Excellent. I know we're going to have some time to talk more about that. I'm personally very fascinated by kind of the autonomous side of this activity. Nishu, maybe you can kind of give us your perspective on the opportunities you're seeing here, in the products you're building and what you're hearing from customers. Sorry, you're on mute.
All right. So I'll talk in terms of opportunities as well as the challenges, because we are basically location technology providers. So nowadays what I see is that knowing your customer and ability to reach to your customer in the most effective and efficient manner is key to any business operation success. And especially when you talk about companies who are engaged in the business of last mile deliveries, it becomes very important to reach your customer in an effective way. And on one side, this is the requirement, but on the other side, we also know that 75% of the world is badly addressed. And this already leaves about 4 billion people without having access to proper address. Then thinking about, how do you provide them access to a digital address? So even with places that are addressed, especially we are catering to APAC region, developing countries, and we have already realized that about 80% of these addresses are unverified. So how do you really create this reach to the customer, whether you use automated delivery mechanisms, whether it is a person in the loop, But reaching, knowing your customer location is most important to build digital transformation and to create true digital economy. So clearly we need solutions that can bridge this gap on a gradual basis. There is no 0 to 1 stage for this type of challenges and opportunities. So just taking one example, if I come from India and I know within India, like Paula talked about rural markets. So India is hugely populated and majority of our population also comes from villages. But when you talk about the addressing structure between urban and rural areas, it varies a lot. And even within urban areas, when you move from one city to another city, the address structures change depending upon the maturity of city, because there could be different level of infrastructure within cities. So the addressing pattern itself create huge challenge for any technology company to bring out unified addressing solutions. So, and considering that as a challenge, when these solutions are used by delivery companies, we are actually talking about billions and billions that are lost due to inadequate addresses and due to failure of deliveries. So what we have come to realize is that one map kind of a solution does not fit to these type of use cases, or a rigid technical architecture. It does not cater to the hyperlocal need of addressing solutions. And this is what typically we are trying to change. We at UNL, we are working at resolving, addressing geocoding problem at a hyperlocal level. And that's why we came up with the concept of living geocoder, which actually built on a concept of continuous training and continuous evolution, so that we can cater to the hyperlocal challenges and we can actually enable the reach to the customer and increase customers retention and rate in line to that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. I think, you're hearing a theme from everyone around the nature of the customer, the nature of the delivery, the nature of the infrastructure. All of these things have relevant associations. Some of them are kind of very interconnected. And you actually just kicked it off really well for us, Nishu, on just talking about some of the challenges. Kota, you were referring to some of this, I think, in your initial comments, but can you talk more about the challenges you're seeing? Again, you have a different method of delivery, maybe different target customer, different factors that you're trying to consider when doing a drone business.
Yes. So yeah, actually, how this drone business is, especially for maybe in this topic, it's better to explain from the delivery side. So then, actually, drone delivery is already very starting become common in especially in the US and other countries because of the it start difficulty to access to these kind of shops, and so it's because people living in a very far area from these shops and so on. Then also the very old people, or even this type of people, it's difficult to drive to these areas as well. So that's why this automated system is really important in the future to also deliver. But still there is a lot of difficulty especially for the drones aspect. So drone is, of course, it's flying drone, it's flying sky, so that's why it's difficult to carry the very heavy stuff. And then if it's carry heavy stuff, then the distance drone will be short. Then also from the safety side, also still drone is not 100% sure it can keep it can go to destination. It can be like fall down, or electricity, this battery is not enough, but this kind of lot of problem is there. So we need still the update of these technologies, but of course the technology can accept in the world. Then this business become can access to the lot of people who cannot access to these areas.
I mean, it makes sense. There are limitations for drones as well. I mean, you mentioned it, just power, range. If you've got to go farther away, then there's a limiting factor there. So there are other problems, even with new technologies, new systems, in delivering it in the most effective way. Paula, you talked about this more from like a rural kind of opportunity, but clearly there are challenges with that too. I mean, maybe there are other challenges that you want to highlight here as people think about, this shift to more local, precise ways of it, getting that last mile figured out?
So I think building on Nishu's point, right? There's the biggest challenge, I think, is actually addressing the address input in order to make it successful. So if you think about it, there are many different e-commerce sites out there. There are many different brands who are capturing consumer addresses to make these deliveries possible. And they are the question is, how do you educate them in such a way that you will get better data? Because a lot of the technology is actually spent on address cleanliness, putting in the effort to clean it up, making it standardized, making sense of it. And to be honest, we've seen addresses come through our system that basically sounds like Jalan Bukit Merah, but in another country it'll be like Jalan something, which is street. And then there will be another description at the bottom, like turn left at the petrol station, you see the yellow building, it's the building on behind it. How do you translate a descriptive text into something meaningful that you can put then on a map? And getting them to use, I think if we all know Grab and Uber and all that, you can sometimes drag as a consumer where exactly your location is on a map. There are consumers out there who cannot do that effectively either. So you end up in a position of how do you translate the address that you get into an effective location that a driver can then find on a map. So there's this challenge of matching the two together, which is not always the easiest thing. And I think that's what a lot of mapping technologies are trying to address. So just to share a little bit, like one of the trends we've been seeing in the past year or so is the point of interest mapping, right? So instead of capturing just addresses, they're trying to capture it by point of interest. So they're giving a name to the place. They're trying to make it more community driven. I think just in Q3 this year, just last few months ago actually, Grab has just announced that they are releasing their own version of Grab Maps. And a lot of that is based through this they are trying to go by point of interest locations as opposed by just pure address, in the hopes that a point of interest name would be more recognizable than just an address. Yeah. So people would recognize the name of shopping centers, but they don't know the address of the shopping center, being an example of that. So, and I think this is something that will continue as well to address these challenges. Whether it's the most effective, we do not know yet. It's still in progress, but it's one of the ways that technology is coming out to help with these things.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a theme here around, we'll just call it metadata, right? There's so many different data points that may be more relevant for the different type of customer, for the different type of a service that you may be using. I definitely want to get everyone's perspective on this, but maybe Paul, maybe let's just take some time to expand on what you're talking about here, because there's contextual data, there's different metadata out there. But I think, when we were talking about this before, when you're connecting to providers too, how do you do this in a way when you have many providers? How do you do this in a way that also that it doesn't get lost, that there's a consistent, if you will, translation that everyone can use, so that it can be, you can have, let's say, multiple providers in some of the services that you guys are offering?
I would say that it's a challenge and still a challenge. Everyone's still trying to figure out the best way to do it. There are many large delivery companies in India, for example, who has turned to machine learning in hopes of standardizing the data or learning the data in hopes that it will provide more consistency, with varying successes. Because if you teach using data that isn't clean to begin with, then you end up in this endless loop, and it's very difficult to fix that as it goes along. The thing that's definitely undisputable, still the most reliable, is longitude, latitude, when it comes to addresses. Not addresses, but accuracy of location on the map. But not many people know about it necessarily or know how to use it. Again, it comes back to the same thing, which is consumer education, and how do companies bridge that gap. In a technology perspective, there's actually a lot of people who are sitting on a lot of data. It's very spread out across different companies, different vendors. There's a single source of truth yet that has emerged. And we are hoping that at some point there will be a dominant player that comes out that would help, because what we are experiencing is there are some maps that are better in certain countries like Indonesia, there's a preferred map there. Malaysia, there's another one. China has its own. Korea has its own. Japan has its own. And they are not exactly one size fits all. And I think that is another challenge that we all face. Yeah.
Totally. I'm supposed to visit Korea in a few months, and I tried using Google Maps, and it was basically non-functional because they only use Naver Maps or something like that. So I mean, there are all these little regional considerations, like you said, the consistency, the standardization is a whole other level of concern and consideration here. I want to go to Kota before I go to Nishu here. You know, Kota, you mentioned that drones have a different map entirely, right? Because lat longe is kind of two-dimensional, right? But you're in the sky. I mean, how are you finding that data challenge?
Yes. So of course the drone, it's flying, so it's three-dimensional. But right now, actually in the sky there are nothing is existing. Actually, nothing. We cannot see anything, right? So then, of course, we have the system for the air mobility itself, like aircraft. Aircraft has this already some kind of the air traffic already there is. So we just use a similar system for drone as well. And then initially, but for that the aircraft itself can only fly from the airport, so that's why it's easy to track the one place to other place because they only stay on this airport. But in the future, of course, a lot of drone will be in sky. I mean, everywhere will be the starting point. Then it can be the end point. So that's why we need integrated for every drones, we need integrate some ID, like kind of the number plate. Then we have to track all these drones, but from the centralized point where it's flying. Then if it's not, then also we should visualize this road of the sky. So I think we need some VR system or AR system in the future to see exactly where is the road and where it should stop or where it should go and so on. So this like traffic light and so on. So this kind of system will be necessary, but of course the realistic, we should start from the like similar to this aircraft management system. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of complex technical considerations there that I'm not going to try to figure out in this call. But, you know, hey, Nishu, I know you thought a lot about this. This is obviously core to what UNL is doing too. I mean, how do you see this coming together? What are some of the key points that technology can address some of these gaps that we're seeing, particularly on the data side? You need to unmute.
I'm notorious for talking in mute. So I think we have been talking about multiple points here, but I would like to touch upon the point that Paula was talking about. And see, mapping technology has been there for so many years, and a lot of companies have built really nice solutions, and that has led to the digital transformation. But when we look at today, the way technology is moving and the way businesses are moving, there is a need to somehow challenge the status quo, I would say, because everybody has been indulged in creating their own rigid mapping platform without any, open access to bringing a contribution from the stakeholders. So what UNL is trying to do is build a data agnostic platform, because we already realize that it's not that there is no data available in the ecosystem. People have generated data over past so many years. So when it comes to identifying data issues, it is not always about accessibility of the data or having or not having the data. It is also about interpretation of the data, the structure of the data. How do you create inference from the meta references? How to create contextual relationship between data points? So UNL is trying to tap into all of these challenges, and with that context in mind, we are bringing in data agnostic platform. So, and the reason we want to build a data agnostic platform, because we want to create opportunities from different type of stakeholders that are there in the ecosystem, be it a large company who has been in the mapping space for over 20 or 30 years, to an individual person who might want to contribute, and to businesses that are lying somewhere in between, because almost every business is nowadays generating data. So they might also want to leverage this data to create distinguished services. So we are creating a platform that can cater to the need of bringing all of this data together, massage it, integrate it with the technology, and create distinguished services. So these services can be private. So if a business is bringing their own data and want to have unique service offering only restricted to themselves, they can do that using UNL platform, or they can also open up their data and integrated services in the market for the purpose of monetization. So we are trying to identify these small issues, like the inherent issues in the ecosystem, and we are trying to bridge that gap. So that's what typically we are trying to focus on. So data agnostic. And when we started thinking about building our data agnostic platform, we thought that how are we going to build this unique private ownership based silos, because maintenance of data, we are talking about huge amount of data. So maintenance of data itself is a big challenge. So we came up with the concept of virtual private map. So virtual private map is basically, in simple terms, you can consider this a private workspace, which we provide to a customer who is using UNL platform. And through the virtual private map, you can use UNL API services for bringing your own data onto the platform, which will be totally powered and owned by the businesses. So that's how we are trying to solve some of these challenges, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. We're hearing there are many sorts of types, and like you said, the availability of data is not the issue. Making sense of it, how does it standardize? How do you apply it to these different and diverse applications? Whether it's food delivery or drone delivery or parcel delivery. I mean, all of those are different, but yet they share a lot of kind of common, like foundational elements. I want to leave time for a kind of audience Q&A here, but before we kind of do that, maybe I'll come back to the panel and ask you to speak about something that, we can take this one of two ways. One, what you're most excited about, over the next 2, 3, 5 years, kind of pick kind of a bit of a time frame that's a little bit out there, what you see coming down for your business or for your industry. And or if you had a magic wand, what would you want to happen in the industry, tomorrow to really kind of address some of these, all these considerations we've been talking about. So maybe Paul, let's start with you. You get to choose.
I get to choose the magic wand or speculations on the future. I think in the next few years, right, I foresee more of community-driven and user-driven assistance with regards to mapping. So instead of mapping technology and companies relying on their own people and doing it themselves, they'll be using more of the local networks that are available to help with this, to also build the database and maintain it so it doesn't go out of date if people are constantly doing it. The question then becomes how active will this community be, how long will it last, and which are the ones who will be more successful than others. And I think this would actually open a lot of opportunities to delivery as well. And we already see this happening in what we term as the dark store concept. So instead of delivering from a singular centralized warehouse to different rural areas, you see people using smaller shops in that rural area as like a hub from which deliveries are going to happen, because people in that area would know how to deliver in that area itself. So you're seeing this happening as people are instead of addressing directly the addressing problem, or even how do you do deliveries in this local areas or hyperlocal areas, right? They are just bypassing it completely and say, you know what, I will get the people there to do it themselves, because they would be the people who know best. So I see a lot more community-driven solutions coming up in the next few years. Yeah, and I think this is already prevalent in places like India and Indonesia, and we'll just only see more of it. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Kota, you get to choose, either a magic wand or what you're excited about seeing over the next few years in your business and in the industry as well.
Yeah, I would choose for next few years for our business. Then, so next few years, actually, usage of drone is now getting more and more popular right now. Then still just it's limited to use in the industry phase, like how we just use for inspection or like for land survey, or this is agriculture, or this kind of very industry side right now. But it more become the common to like not to be so to commercial side. I mean, for the like people will use by the as a taxi, or like people will use as a delivery, or these kind of things will be definitely it will be more common than this kind of testing a lot, the having a lot in the worldwide right now. Then even the like air mobility company in the like US is already in the Nasdaq markets, and they are getting a lot of funds from the lot of companies. So this market is now actually getting really, really huge business. Then if of course funding and coming, and then also the drone cost will become cheaper, then yeah, everybody can use this kind of mobility. And so in that at that time, yeah, this mapping for the sky will be very, very important, because it can more easy to travel to the like not only the inside country house, also the outside country. It's very easy to communicate actually. So in that case, you said before, the problem is each country has like, if each country has their own map, then it becomes a problem. So we need some organizer to operate all this map in the worldwide. So yeah. So this kind of business also will be coming. So yeah, road and this infrastructure side, and also this mobility side, development itself side, it will be the growing in next few years. So yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I noticed that someone was asking asking for a kind of recap of what do we mean by hyperlocal, and for me the examples are, if you think about a city. The density of a city we were talking about 3 dimensions, right? It's not just this point and that point, and therefore you have this address. It's, are they on what floor? Are they in which building? Are they in which complex? And all of that information is not standardized. It's just put in a broadest sense. And that makes things very, very challenging. Nishu, what, given these are the challenges, these are the things that we're all, trying to work on. From a technology standpoint, I know you're working on this, but what are you excited about over the next few years here? Or again, magic wand, no one seems to like that one, but the next few years of the industry.
Yeah, so I'll choose a magic wand, because I know, we have been dealing with the problems for over so many years, and then people are coming up with solutions also. What I feel is that there is a need for an integrated effort, because mapping should not be restricted to one company or one person. Mapping has to, as Paula said, mapping has to be community driven. But it is also not wise to say that every person comes up with the similar capabilities of doing the map. The map can be really complicated as a domain itself. And I can tell this because I have built maps for over 20 years now. So the magic wand that I would like to use, probably if possible, is that, getting the mindset shift in people and organizations and businesses who rely on location-based services, is to build towards an integrated system which leads towards true data democracy. True data democracy is something where you can utilize data, you can create a different type of interfaces around data, and build technology platforms on top of that. So if given a chance, I would lead towards true data democracy as an option going forward. We have already been putting all the other efforts, to be honest. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do it. Boom.
Yeah.
It's done. All right. Well, I'm going to shift to some questions here. If everyone can just give me about 10 seconds, 20 seconds while I find some questions that make sense. Yeah, maybe I think one thing that'd be helpful for everyone as we're talking about is I would love to hear from each of you, or for whoever wants to jump on this, an example. How does this become real for you? How does this become real in terms of what your company is doing, what your customers are feeling, where these pain points are showing up? I think maybe we start there and really just kind of paint this picture beyond kind of broader statements. And if we can see some of the real world applicability I think that'll help contextualize this for a lot of people. So any takers on that first?
I can start, Ali, if you're looking for some real world examples of how UNL is. So we have been talking a lot about hyperlocal, and we've been talking about a lot of creating ongoing solutions. So I can cite some of the work we have done in the past few months around building hyperlocal living geocoding solution. So shall I go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, see, UNL already have a global standard of the self geocoding solution, but we also realize that the standard of the self geocoding solution is not enough to cater to the Asian market needs, especially because addressing patterns, we all know, we all come from the same market. See, so there are two spectrum of challenges about the addressing pattern. One is that the structure itself, which itself is ambiguous, changes city to city between urban and rural areas. And on the other side, when users interpret their address and add the information about their addressing, people tend to follow different structures, different naming conventions. There is a challenge of using colloquial versus English names. So these are the two sides of challenges that every company who has been dealing with identifying customer location using the addresses deals with. So what we did, we started working closely with the customers, and we started identifying the patterns. So we did this activity in Indonesia. We have been doing this activity for Philippines. And we try to work very closely with our customers, understand the address patterns, and try to identify all the noise that exists and that causes the low accuracy and issues in the geocoding process. And in that process, we create hyperlocal living geocoders for our customers. And in fact, in the past, for Indonesia, we were able to improve accuracy by about 25% as part of doing this hyperlocal effort for over 4 weeks. So from the existing accuracy of about 70%, we were able to take the accuracy metrics to 95% for Indonesia. And we have been able to do this similar activity in Philippines. And same from Philippines, we started with a 60% accuracy, and now we are sitting at a 92% accuracy for identifying the Philippines administrative address structure. So we have been actually doing it, and the concept that we are using is hyperlocal living geocoder, because the off-the-shelf is not answer to solving the challenges of today's industry.
Okay, I mean that from a technology standpoint, that's a really helpful, obviously solution to address the things we've been talking about. Paul, a lot of questions have come, or a couple of questions have come in around your point about community maps, maybe expanding on that a bit more, kind of how you see that working, how maybe the challenges around privacy and people opting in. Do you have any more thoughts on that piece in particular?
I see quite a few questions, so I'll just try to summarize as many answers as possible into the same question. Yeah. With regards to privacy, right? In most cases, there is no names or contacts involved. It's merely just address. So matching what the address is with the actual location, whether that results in an actual house or a mall or a point of interest like a museum or a government office, it's a different thing, right? So in that sense, most data that people use are typically anonymized anyway and completely disengaged from its the name or whoever lives there, right? It's just address and a point of location and its location on the map. So in that sense, in many cases, data privacy doesn't come into play. It's just that in some companies, they hold the address and this kind of data close to their heart, which is what Nishu was addressing. It would be great if it could be more integrated, because data is king, and you can monetize data as well. So that's where you have more challenges in data privacy. It's not necessarily personal data privacy so much as it is companies who would like to keep that data for whatever reason that may be, right, to protect their customers or that. As for the other question, I saw another one about community-based mapping. So I wouldn't say I've done something similar. I've merely just kept up with trends that's going on in the market. So for example, Grab has a feature specific for their delivery partners and also their food delivery partners, so Express and the food. They actually encourage drivers to point out and click through point of interest to mark it down on their map to add to their database. and they incentivize these people. So while you're there doing the delivery, you might as well mark it down and I'll give you a little bit of incentive to do more. And then fast forward 1 year later, you hear the news they're doing their own maps. So clearly there might be some kind of relation or some form of success there. And you see in the news, similarly, Gojek is working with other community-driven maps providers. They are very open about this. It's in the news. There are quite a few names there. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they have started working with quite a few of them. And you have solutions like Street Cred, if I'm not mistaken, is what its name is called. They entered Jakarta. Also community-based driven, encouraging people to log in the locations. And there's usually some kind of incentive scheme to go along with it. So yeah, but as I mentioned, I'm not sure how successful it will be or how long this interest will continue, because this is only in the last 1 or 2 years. So we shall see how that goes. Yeah.
Shall see. Hey, Kota, I wanted to come back to, you were talking about the, I'm sorry, there's a big storm happening in Singapore, so you might hear some thunder behind me. Kota, I want to come back to, you mentioned, data from a three-dimensional perspective for a drone that will probably first start along the path of what airplane and flight is already doing today. I mean, maybe we can take that a bit further. I mean, how do you see that coming into play for, I know you're focused on harder to reach areas right now, but in urban areas, right? How would a drone know what floor to go to, or what building to differentiate between in a complex of buildings? Where do you see that level of kind of context or information? What would be helpful for you and your business to address some of that issues? Because we have some questions around the three-dimensional aspects of this, because there are obviously a lot of shopping malls. There are a lot of more areas that have many different stalls inside them, food court, for example, right? So how would you see a similar application of that, maybe in how drones are doing that from a vertical perspective?
Yes, so but actually, initially to fly drone in this area, initially we need to capture the 3D modeling of these cities actually. Then we get the height of each towers and so on. Then usually just the drone will not like fly between building or something like that. Just the drone will just initially just fly over the highest building in this area. So then after that, even drone fly anywhere, then at least it will not crash, right? So then it can go to some area which we have to go. Then drone can go to but if we want to deliver to some towers like 20th floor or 15th floor, or this will be actually big challenge right now because for the GPS, well, actually drone is operate. The drone location is completely depend on the GPS accuracy itself. Then GPS accuracy is actually XY is a very good accuracy there, but Z direction, I mean the height direction, is still not so good in the. So that's why we need some more lower satellite system, or this kind of things will make it more safer for the drone operation. So actually, drone operation itself is not only the drone industry. So also we need to develop this airspace industry, like aerospace, to get the more accurate satellite and so on. So this is very, very important. But this satellite is maybe also can use for the telecommunications and so on. So maybe in the future, more and more satellite will become in the more lower area. So in that case, then we get more accurate the flight plan. We can get this kind of more accurate data. Yeah.
Interesting. There was a question earlier, and I'm also curious about this to get your perspective on this. We've been talking a lot about what we've probably experienced because of COVID, all the logistics and last mile issues around delivery in particular. But if what we're talking about and getting more standardized data, getting more contextual data, richly kind of updating in a more regular way, what are the other applications here? How does this apply beyond maybe the businesses we know today? to, I think someone was asking about marketing or advertising, and again, applying some of this three-dimensional considerations. Where else does this show up? Where else does this, get exciting for other businesses that are not represented here today? Maybe Nishu, you want to take a shot at that first?
So I always consider that location technology is something that touches upon everyone. It's not confined to one industry vertical, and even today that is happening. So although we are talking mostly about the last mile connectivity for a consumer, but location technology has been extensively used in advanced data analytics and geospatial operations. So for a marketing agencies or for companies who are looking for opening up, expanding their businesses, geospatial analytics is hugely popular among these type of use cases. So I already see that location technology touches upon individual verticals quite extensively, and it will continue to do that from two-dimensional to three-dimensionals, from the context of having a data point on your tablet to basically being able to experience the entire 3D world in the form of digital twins is already happening nowadays. So I already see that is going on, and that will continue to evolve. So my one-liner to this would be that map and location technology is something that we cannot live without going forward, because the physical world is now transpiring into a virtual world, and virtual world will already have its own elements, its all location, and there has to be a connection between the virtual and the physical world. So we are talking about a complete integration of location-based technology in every sector, every department, and every business operation. That's how I see it.
I see. Yeah, that question reminded me of, if you watched the movie Minority Report, when Tom Cruise is walking around and all the ads are like coming into his face, like they know exactly where he is. They have all this information about him, and I can only imagine. I don't want that, I think, in our world, but let's see what kind of comes to pass.
Yeah.
Well, we have only a few minutes left here before we need to wrap up, but I maybe can shift to kind of some closing thoughts from each of you around, what you're excited about, where you get back, maybe a little bit more of what we talked about with the future, but what you're excited about now, the value that you're seeing customers realize from the services that you're providing, and any other kind of closing thoughts you want to share. So maybe Paul, you want to start with that? Start with you.
Let's see. That's a tough question. Let me think. Okay. I think as customers realize that, that challenges they face in hyperlocal delivery is leading to higher costs, and there's also fuel cost that's increasing. There's a shift to EV. There's a whole theme on sustainability as well. To be more sustainable doesn't necessarily always mean cheaper, but companies are still striving towards that. So there's always this tension and balance between how do I be sustainable while I still maintain my costs, right? So at some point, these two are going to intersect, and I think companies are going to find more efficient ways to achieve things, and they're going to realize the importance that, data has to be accurate for them to achieve a certain level of success. If they're going to do in the delivery space, if they're going to do deliveries, then, less trips, less spending time, driver walking around figuring out where they're going, it's definitely going to save money. Yeah, so I see that shift there, and also with things like, say, EV coming about, right? This is another big topic, I think. Not going to touch today, but it's related to mapping, I think, because as people do deliveries, you need to find your charge points. Not all EVs are compatible with all charge points. This is another whole big area to touch on, and you will need that you will need that to work efficiently, to also, like I said, maintain costs while achieving the sustainability agenda. So I think there's a lot of potential there as well, and challenges. Well, both of them always go together. But yeah, I believe that we have I hope to see more great technology coming out in this space for this in the future. Yeah.
Tota, any closing thoughts from you?
Yes. Yes. Provide. Just can I go last? Levi Costa.
Yeah, come back to you. Nishu, closing thoughts.
There are a lot of thoughts, but see, first of all, I'm already excited about the pace we are, going with at UNL. And 6 months or 9 months back, when we started thinking about building hyperlocal solution, especially in the area of solving the addressing challenge, even I was very skeptical about it. And after solving it for a couple of geographies, I am very excited about doing it at a larger scale. But while I say that, I would also say that we are not only about solving addressing issues. Geocoding is just one part of one feature of the entire product portfolio that we are working on. So we want to bring in data agnosticness, BYOD capabilities, contribution, monetization opportunity across the entire spectrum of location-based services that we have been working on. And it's already a quite exciting and challenging phase. Things that appears difficult and impossible excites me a lot. So 9 months back, it was geocoding. Today, it's about building a dynamic routing and optimization solutions. So I think the pace is already very exciting and I'm very happy about it. And yeah, that's it.
Great. Great to hear.
Yeah.
Kota, you had some bonus thinking time. What do we got?
Yeah, bonus time. So actually, so we started this drone business since 2016. Then actually, compared with this 6 years back, then this drone business became more popular, and then people start to use drone. But still, it has many difficulty to fly the drone to especially like urban area or like any area. Actually, it's prohibited to work because of the danger of this drone. People feel the danger for the drone, but actually we have the way to operate more safer. Then to fly safer, we need some system like for this kind of the drone, as I said, drone roads or this kind of system we need. Then actually we are developing this system for a lot of countries right now. Then some countries already started to use this system. So before anyone to fly drones, then just they can access to this platform. Then if this air authority applies, they can fly anytime, everywhere. So if this kind of safer system we have, then it can more easy to fly the drone. Then this kind of the drone delivery or right now, this also the human cost is now increasing because this inflation and so on. But if we can this way, we can exchange the human to robotic side, then it become good. So that's why this how to fly drone safer is the really important matter. Then we want to continue to develop this system for the globally. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think, just maybe to wrap, thank you so much to our panelists, Paula, Nishu, Kota, for giving a really diverse set of perspectives. This is an issue I think many of us maybe encountered more, because of COVID. We had to have things delivered right to our door. And but in the process, we've now kind of seen the opportunity and the challenges, if we're all honest, and we all talked about that also revealed to us. And now we're seeing technology tackle some of it. And, but there's a lot of still coordination, standardization. I think we talked about the democracy of data at one point. There's still a lot of human issues that we still have to tackle through this as well. So I think having a group like this come together, acknowledge it, and hopefully we can all work together to make more of this come to reality going forward. So again, thank you to our panelists. I'm going to hand it back to Joel to close us out here.
Awesome. So once again, thank you so much, Alan, for leading this wonderful discussion. And so also to our panelists, thank you so much, for taking the time and sharing all of your insights regarding this topic. And, it's really interesting because we also received a lot of questions in the Q&A widget, and we also have some questions in the chat. But unfortunately, apologies, we didn't have the time to answer all of this. But in any case, what we can do is we can address all of these questions to our panelists after, and perhaps we can share their feedbacks with you on this one as well. So once again, Alan, thank you so much for leading this wonderful discussion. And thank you so much to our panelists as well. We have Nishu, Paula, and Kota for the very insightful discussion and for sharing all of these resources with our audiences. And I'm sure everyone here learned a lot. And of course, this event wouldn't have been possible without our friends from UNL. And it doesn't end here. So before you guys go, we just wanted to let you know that UNL is giving away exclusive access to all platforms featuring all platform features, including UNL Studio, to the first 20 people to sign up. So we would like to invite you to maybe scan the QR code on your screen or click on the link in the chat box below. So we'll be giving you a few more seconds for this one because we'll be giving out to the first 20 people to sign up only. And there you have it. And as always, we have more of these episodes happening in the future. I do know some of you have a lot of questions and are really keen on learning if there are any future events. So if you would like to find out more about the other events that we're having in E27, so you can go to e27.co/events or by signing up for an E27 account if you haven't yet to get updated with the daily digest. So once again, thank you so much for attending, and thank you to our panelists and to our moderator for the very, very insightful discussion. And that's it for today. Thank you, stay safe, and have an amazing day ahead. Bye, everyone.